Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Houston Open DFS Tactics show. We have a lot to cover tonight. The wind is going to be a major factor. We got a lot of lineups to create, as well as look at the mixed condition model that I've made for this week. But the first announcement is that I will have my Friday night chill stream Friday evening. Hope you consider dropping by. We're going to be doing some Showdown content, probably relaxing, listening to some music, and we'll partake in anything that the community or the chat wants to do. You want to talk about different sports, baseball, basketball, anything, up for that. Talk about live, anything that the community wants to talk about or anything like that. Probably play a game or two as well if you want to hang out, watch that, be a part of the community. Even if you can't stay, just to drop by, say hello, that would mean a lot to me. So I hope you consider doing that Friday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern. Wouldn't be a Friday night chill stream if it was 8 a.m. 8 p.m. Eastern. Friday evening, that'll be on Twitch and on YouTube. Two field changes that I have seen. Emiliano Grillo has withdrawn, and Grayson Sigg as well. So if you have submitted lineups already with those two players, make sure you change those, double check your lineups. Emiliano Grillo and Grayson Sigg have withdrawn, and I believe that is it. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show, as they say. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there at your disposal. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler and a much better DFS player. Go check them out. It's simply well worth the investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media, Twitter and Instagram, where I normally post research. I have been busy this week with only 2 years of data to look at. Not really a whole lot of a pattern. So instead, I put a whole lot of time and emphasis into the mixed condition model, split, sliced, diced, dissected, and whatever adjective you want to use this data, and feel pretty good with this week's mixed condition model. There are a lot of filters and metrics being used. So if you want to see the research that I do in a summary form, give me a follow at Twitter or Instagram. Twitter is also where I post my betting cards for the week, which will happen again this evening after the show. Not a very big card for me this week. My one usual FOMO, maybe a couple of top 10s as well, but not a lot that I partook in towards the wager market. Not a lot of odds that I liked. Again, a lot of focus on DFS this week. There is also a link to my Twitch stream. And this is where I do a lot of my intense or data intensive research. This is where the bulk of my Showdown content is. So if you want to see that, make sure you give me a follow at Twitch. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. Throughout this week, what was your overarching thought process? What players did you focus on? Did you look at the wind? We're going to do that here in a minute. What 6K plays do you have, if any? Who are your top pivots and fades? Who are you wanting to try to build a lineup around? Jump in chat. Would love that discussion. But let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Houston Open. And we start with Wind Finder. And as I mentioned in the top of the intro, the wind is going to play a major factor. But you see, Thursday, there is no wind. Tomorrow looks to be a pristine day for scoring. The course is difficult, so the players are still going to have to play well, but this is the best opportunity the players will have. No wind, high of 75, just a beautiful day for golf tomorrow. And then Friday morning looks good as well. You see high of 75 around noon or 1, but look at the afternoon. There appears to be a cold front coming in and just dropping the temperatures, and the winds are going to pick up quite heavily. So with 3/4 of the cut field having good weather and 1/4 not, then you really want to avoid that 1/4. So the way I'm seeing it, especially if the forecast holds, and I will reload this up to the second. Didn't change much because I reloaded it 10 to 15 minutes before stream, but I have a pretty darn severe advantage for Thursday PM, Friday AM because of this system. I mean, the wind completely switches direction. Rain, it does not look good for the Friday PM split. And because of that, those players on Thursday morning are going to have to shoot even lower to make up for their seeming struggles, or what looks to be a very unfavorable draw for them this week. So I have a pretty severe advantage in the form of a Thursday PM, Friday AM. So give that half of the draw a pretty big boost, especially if they don't, or if they do play well in calm winds. If a player does play well in windy conditions and is in the bad part of the draw, you maybe don't want to drop them too much, but you still need to drop them. It is by far the worst half of the draw when half the field has pristine conditions. No matter how good you are in the wind, it's unfavorable for you. So, as you are filling out your lineups tonight and finalizing your thoughts, your rankings, anyone that is teeing off tomorrow afternoon, meaning also teeing off Friday morning, give a significant boost. Now, it's important to note that my rankings won't reflect that. They are just simply by Fantasy National Analytics, previous course performance, and ownership. I don't try to put a multiplier or a factor of what side of the draw. I just give severe advantages in my own weighting or in my own mind to players that are on good or bad sides of the draw. But definitely wanted to show you this as the forecast, again, being 36 hours out from Friday, where this looks like it could wreak havoc on one portion of the field. It looks pretty bad for that portion. So a lot of favor in the Thursday PM portion. Okay, so let's move on over to Fantasy National. And even though I just exited out Windfinder, Saturday and Sunday look to be pretty similar to Friday afternoon. High winds, pretty chilly. I think it is supposed to warm up a little bit on Sunday, but still a lot of wind. So what I have done, I've grabbed 50 rounds. That is, I think, the most of any player in 2022. Davis Riley might have a couple of more, but he was the only one that reached 50. So in 2022, up to date, your top performers in moderate and windy conditions, since the weekend also looks to be pretty havoc with wind. Your top windy condition players have been Tony Finau, Aaron Wise, Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, Gary Woodland, Sebastian Munoz, Scott Piercy, Sahith Theegala, Russell Henley, and Alex Noren. So on top of the AM-PM split, anybody in this category you would give a boost to as well because they have played well in the wind. Conversely, you need to give these players a pretty severe downgrade in your rankings. Nick Watney, Jason Duffner, Cole Hammer, Harris English, Danny Lee, Max McGreevy, Jim Herman, Kevin Tway, Ryan Brim, Justin Suh, Tyson Alexander, Brent Grant, Kramer Hickok, Norlander, and on down the way. So give these players a pretty significant decrease or downgrade in your rankings or in your thought process as you move forward this evening or maybe even into tomorrow morning filling out your lineups. But certainly I am factoring in a little bit of wind because the entire weekend looks to have some wind in it. But the main goal is to get 6 of 6 through, and then we'll see what happens on the weekend. So in that regard, I am still giving much more favor to players that are in the Thursday PM, Friday AM draw. I'm giving those players much more weight or consideration than I am players are in the wind. Still, the key is to get 6 of 6 through. So with that, there is that information for you. Now let's go to my mixed condition model for the week. And again, a reminder, I did not do any rookie rankings. And I wasn't planning on it, but also when I went and played some golf yesterday morning, that also helped in the decision making to not make one. So just one single mixed condition model for the full field this week. And I have 13 different metrics and filters. As I said, I really focused on the DFS portion this week with only 2 years of data. There wasn't a whole lot of a pattern for the 2 winners year over year in terms of what metrics they performed well at to win. So I tried to put my focus into, say, the top 15s, the top 25s, figure out what they all had in common to have a lot of success here at a very difficult course. And I really scrutinized my 2022 or 2021-2022 season Houston Open mixed condition model, which we looked at Monday night. And I found some interesting things. So let's go through this here. 5% strokes gained approach. It is still going to be important. It's the second most shot type here at Houston. It's still a little bit above average in terms of relation to other full field courses. But there were a lot of things that I wanted to put in here. So ultimately I dropped it to 5%. I really wanted to put 10. I have it at 5. But I think it's appropriate that it is not one of the biggest aspects of this mixed condition model. 10% in strokes gained around the green, and I spent most of Monday talking about how I was going to have scrambling, maybe a little bit of strokes gained around the green. And when I looked into it, while scrambling will be important, a lot of that will be strokes gained around the green, and I looked at strokes gained around the green last year, didn't put any percentage weight into the final mixed condition model, but certainly used it as some tiebreakers. And when I sorted on the leaderboard last year for the Houston Open, strokes gained around the green was pretty darn correlating, especially last year's. So thinking that scrambling is going to be important, this course is difficult, it's long, so players probably aren't going to be hitting a lot of greens like we've talked about all week. I did put 10% strokes gained around the green, decided to nix scrambling when it's difficult and just upped the around the green. I toyed with the idea of putting around the green when it's difficult. I just wanted to see who was good around the green, period. If you wanted to get a little bit more precise, or you wanted to perhaps find an angle on your fellow competitors, you could absolutely look at around the green when it's difficult. I just looked at around the green in total. 5% strokes gained putting Bermuda, no speed filters. And the question I can hear you asking is why only 5% when it is clearly the most important shot type here at Memorial Park. The reason being is that especially players like Jason Kokrak and Carlos Ortiz, these winners, especially, and players that finished in the top 5, a lot of them were mediocre career-wise in terms of Bermuda putting. They had a very strong week. They certainly had the ability to pop. Some of them did have a little bit of good Bermuda form coming in, but overall, and this is why I believe putting is just not a statistic that I want to depend on long term, it's just fickle. Guys, were generally pretty mediocre. Some were even negative in terms of total Bermuda putting in their career. But then they come to Houston, they just have a good week. So that's why I talked about these two ranges in putting, and I'll get to them here in a bit. But I do have 5% in Bermuda putting. I think it is going to be a major factor. I think it's going to be a small factor of who's naturally good on Bermuda. The players like Denny McCarthy, Sam Burns, they've played this event well. They are naturally good on Bermuda putting, so that is absolutely a factor. I didn't want it to be one of the most important factors. 10% in avoiding bogeys when it's difficult. I think that's going to be one of the most important factors this week. Pars are going to be very good scores. Maybe not tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to absolutely going to have to go out and shoot a very good number with the calm winds. But the rest of the tournament, you're going to have to avoid bogeys. Pars will be good scores. I want to see who avoids bogeys when it's difficult. I wanted to see driving distance when it's difficult. We talked about that Monday night. Put that at 5%. 10% in greens when it's difficult. I think this is going to be one of the bigger factors, if not the biggest factor this week. Similar to strokes gained around the green, most of these players aren't going to be hitting greens. Memorial Park is pretty darn difficult. It's been classified as one of the toughest tests on tour. So if a player is hitting greens, especially when it's difficult, they're getting a major leg up on the competition. I only have 5% in procs. Again, when I scrutinized last year's mixed condition model, I looked at total procs, and it wasn't very conducive to success. So I think it'll be a factor, just not a big one. Only 5% there. The two most important factors this week: strokes gained par 3 and par 5s. And I went ahead and specified the 550 to 600 par 5s, since 2 of the 3 measure to there. The third one will come into this range a day or two. These two are going to be the most important factors. There are 5 par 3s on the course. You're going to have to play the par 3s well. We saw throughout the week how important the par 5 scoring was. Going to have to be able to play those. You can't ignore the par 4s, so 5% each in par 4s total. And I did split out the 450 to 500. I think that's going to be the most important range of par 4s, but only 5% in each. And then lastly, as I mentioned, I've either solved the matrix or I've completely went off the rails. I truly believe the 10 to 20 foot range of putting is going to be a very big factor this week. I have a hunch it's going to be the 15 to 20, but I kept 10 to 15 and 15 to 20 both at 5%, did not give any preference of weight. I just think these mid-length putts are the be-all end-all here at Memorial Park and what contributes to such a dominant putting statistic. So there is a look at my mixed condition model for this week. Again, I would have loved to have increased some strokes gained approach percentage. Just couldn't with the amount of metrics and filters I wanted to factor in this week. Obviously, if the putting isn't as big of a deal or is a bigger deal than what I'm giving it, I'll be cold to that. If bogeys aren't such a big thing, especially tomorrow with it being easy, I'll be a little cold to that. And I don't have anything specific in terms of off the tee. It is just driving distance. So if flat out strokes gained off the tee matter, or maybe good drives gained, fairways, because fairways are tough to hit here. That is one metric I would have liked to have gotten in here, but it was honestly one of the first cuts knowing how much I wanted to put in here. If fairways matter, I could be pretty cold to that as well. So there's a look at my mixed condition model for the week. So let's go on over to Microsoft Excel, start covering these rankings and so on, and start building some lineups, tiers, contests, and all that. So when factoring everything in from Fantasy National Analytics, the course value, which is previous course history, ownership percentage, all of that, my top 10 looks as such. Well, top 9, as you'll see, go as such. Sam Burns, Aaron Wise, Tony Finau, Russell Henley, Andrew Putnam, Stefan Jaeger, Lee Hodges, Taylor Pendrith, and Scotty Scheffler. Matthew Neesmith now essentially is 10th in my rankings thanks to Grillo's withdrawal. But probably not a whole lot of surprise here, especially up at the top. Burns, Wise, Finau, very, very popular. They have played this event extremely well. Russell Henley coming off the win. Probably no surprise. Andrew Putnam, he's priced at 8,600, which is really surprising when you think about name value in 8,600. But he's played this event very well. He's played well recently. He's good in the wind. There's a lot to like with Andrew Putnam. Stefan Jaeger, I've seemingly had him rising in my rankings lately. I mean, look here, top 5 in 3 of the 5 most important statistics that I've put in, and top 5 in the 2 most par 3s and par 5s. I really like Stefan Jaeger this week. Taylor Pendrith I like. Scheffler, Matthew Neesmith. So let's go on in and start evaluating the price board here. Sort on column D, the largest to smallest. Oh, column E. It's a good thing I double checked. Aha. Okay, so in the 10Ks, we have 5 players. Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, Tony Finau, Hideki, and Russell Henley. You can see I am very high on all 5 of them. Hideki would be a pretty clear 5th in my estimation. Yes, it says he plays well in the wind. I'm a little gun shy on that fact, but the others, I mean, what's this? Like Scotty Scheffler, the huge run that he made last Sunday at Mayakoba. I think he's knocked some of the rust off. He's number 1 in bogeys avoided, number 2 in greens when it's difficult. And the par 5, surprisingly, he has not been the best at this length. Par 3s are fine. He is good putting on Bermuda, especially from 15 to 20 feet. There's a lot to like with Scotty Scheffler, but 21% seems pretty darn high, especially at the price. Sam Burns, number 1 in my rankings. I'm going to use some Sam Burns. He's number 1 in this field. It's just getting cut off. Sorry. Number 1 in this field in total Bermuda putting. Loves Bermuda. Grew up on it. Top 20 in both avoiding bogeys and greens when it's difficult. A lot to like here with Sam Burns. I'll eat that chalk. I'll eat the chalk with Tony Finau. I really do think the rust got knocked off last week. Now, the par 3 performance is shaky, absolutely, but everything else has been pretty darn good. Pretty darn good, including number 1 in par 4s if they are a bit more important than the credence I'm giving them. Hideki, again, fine. The ball striking, always there. He's putt well here at Memorial Park, and that's not something that Hideki is known for, putting. So anytime he gets on a track that he feels comfortable on the greens, he's very dangerous. Russell Henley coming off the win. He is number 1 in this field in strokes gained approach. Let me scroll that over for you. He is number 1 in this field in strokes gained approach, 4th in proximity, 3rd in par 4 performance. A lot to like with Russell Henley. So I like a lot of the 10Ks, really do. All things in a vacuum, and this will be a little bit of cheat because I know who is in the late tee times and early tee times and whatnot because I've been working on my lineups. With all things factored in, of the 5 players in the 10Ks, my number 1 player in the 10Ks is Russell Henley. 1, he's the cheapest. 2, he's only at 11%. Now, I think that'll probably rise a little bit. But, again, I'm not picking him to win the tournament. I'll never pick a player to finish or to win back-to-back tournaments. But I think if for DFS, he's going to be very, very useful. He's fine in the wind. Again, approach, it's going to be important. Putting, especially at the distance that we are focusing on this week, he's good. Now, he might not be the best total best putter on Bermuda or even good. But as I mentioned, the players that have performed well here haven't necessarily been career great Bermuda putters. They've just had good weeks. So I'm banking on the 10 to 15 and 15 to 20 foot form staying this week, riding a little bit of a hot hand with Russell Henley. I think he's my number one player in the 10Ks. Then I'm going to go to Tony Finau, then Sam Burns, and I love all three of them. I love all three of those players. Don't think you can go wrong with any of those three. Again, I'm making Henley first because he's the cheapest. 2, he's the least projected owned. Then Finau, then Burns. I will go Scotty Scheffler 4th, even though he's so expensive and the most projected owned player. I think the rust got knocked off last week, and I'm always going to be a little bit gun shy on Hideki. There's always that withdrawal factor. He has not played this course. It does feel like it would set up well for him, but he has not played this course, so it might take him by surprise. So there's my rankings in the 10Ks. Let's move to the 9s. We got Aaron Wise, Taylor Montgomery, Jason Day, Maverick McNeely, Sahith Theegala, Denny McCarthy, and Joel Damon. Aaron Wise, number 2 player in my rankings. I'm going to use Aaron Wise. He's my FOMO. What else? There's not much more I can say to you as the audience, especially if you're a returning viewer. Aaron Wise always rates well in my model. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion. Number 1 in the par 5s, top 10 in bogey avoidance, top 15 in greens when it's difficult. He doesn't have a bad stat. 68 here is his worst stat. I know there's others off the page for you. 68 is his worst. So, a lot to like here with Aaron Wise. There's a reason why he's the second most projected owned player behind Scotty Scheffler. Honestly, I think he's going to be the most projected or the most owned player when it's all said and done. But I am going to use that chalk. Taylor Montgomery, a lot to like again. Very, very popular, but he has passed every single test. However, I did go back and look at the Korn Ferry Tour stats. The few rounds that were difficult in relation to par, he struggled. He really performed well when it was easy and when it was average. There weren't a lot of rounds that were rated as difficult per Fantasy National on the Korn Ferry Tour. So it's a very small sample size, but the ones that were, he struggled. So I imagine I'm probably going to have some Taylor Montgomery. But if you're looking for a reason to be off of him or to avoid the 15% projected ownership, he did struggle on the Korn Ferry Tour when a round is difficult. But, you know, if you're going to throw that away, I completely understand. He's top 10 in the par 5 performance. I mean, look at the fall he's had. He's number 6 on Bermuda. In the very short time he's been on the PGA Tour, he's already number 6 ranked player on Bermuda total. Number 2 in par 4 performance. He's the real deal. He's the real deal. Jason Day, again, a lot to like here. He played okay at Mayakoba. Number 1 with Russell Henley in strokes gained approach. That's just getting cut off. But he really only has one bad statistic. That's this one here, 76th. That's greens when it's difficult. And since I don't have any strokes gained off the tee metrics, he's generally okay at strokes gained off the tee. I think Day will be fine. He has played this event very well. McNeely, a bit more gun shy on, even though he has averaged, I believe, 19th place finish here in the 2 years he's played. A little more gun shy on Maverick McNeely this week. Yes, he played extremely well. He's hot right now. Par 3 performance is scary. He's not the best at avoiding bogeys, especially when it's difficult. His irons have not been the best. Now, this isn't factoring in last week's Mayakoba, since we don't get the strokes gained approach numbers there with no shot link, but his irons haven't been the best. Now, if you want to believe that the par 4s are going to be more important than the credence I'm giving them, rise them in the rankings. I'm a little gun shy on Mav this week. Denny McCarthy should be good. He's a short game player. This is a short game course. Greens when it's difficult, though. He has a very tough time hitting greens. And scrambling will only get you so far. Eventually, you just have to give yourself a putt at a birdie. I have a feeling Denny McCarthy could struggle to give himself looks for birdie. His putting is going to come into effect in saving his pars, which is fine. He probably makes the cut that way, but I think his upside is capped unless his greens and his proximity and his approach really, really improve. I think Denny McCarthy is probably a safe play. He probably makes the cut. I think his upside is limited. And then Joel Damon, off of the extremely strong performance last week, I like Joel Damon a lot. He's on the bad side of the draw. So, I don't like that, especially since he's not the best in the wind. Or, excuse me, no, he is on the good side of the draw, but he's pretty bad in the wind. I think I have that right. But, again, a lot to like with Joel Damon if you want to go back-to-back with the hot hand, kind of like Matt McNeely. In the 9Ks, my number one player is Aaron Wise. It's everybody's number one player in the 9Ks. I can't get away from it. As much as I like Taylor Montgomery, I'm a little shy about it. Really, I've been kind of skipping the 9s. So that tells you the kind of lineups I'm building. But in the 9Ks, I think I'd probably go Aaron Wise. Maybe Sahith. I mean, he doesn't rate out the best for me. But there's a lot that is going well for him. I'm just very, very concerned when it's difficult. He generally plays easier courses. He really takes advantage of easy courses. So I'm a little gun-shy on Sahith, but I think there's enough there that, especially at the 5.7%, that's a pretty worthwhile gamble, I think, in my mind. Again, McCarthy should be safe, but I just don't see how much upside he has. In the sense that this just feels like a T47 for Denny McCarthy. He just doesn't give himself enough opportunities to use that putter for birdies. He'll be scrambling and making pars, which are good scores. He's going to make the cut. Just don't see much from him in terms of upper leaderboard success. Yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for the 9Ks. Let's move to the 8s. Matthew Neesmith. Gosh dang it. Matthew Neesmith, Siwoo Kim, Alex Noren, Andrew Putnam, Taylor Pendrith, Davis Riley, Adam Hadwin, Sebastian Munoz, Keith Mitchell, and Taylor Moore. Quite a few players I like in here. Quite a few. Let's start with Matthew Neesmith at 89. Top 10 in par 3s, and they're one of the most important factors here. Top 30 in par 5s. Very good combination right off the bat. His around the green play, I know it is shaded into the negative. It's not that bad. It's 67. It's right around field average. It's acceptable. Greens, when it's difficult, mainly because he is 12th in iron play, he will find greens. He's not the shortest in distance. There's just a lot to like here with Matthew Neesmith. Now, he is very popular. Sucks, but it is what it is. I like Neesmith quite a bit. Alex Noren, very good in the wind, but he is not a very, or he's wonderful on Bermuda, but not very good in terms of iron play, proximity. I don't see him playing well when it's difficult, although the metrics have him playing well when it's difficult. I have a hard time believing that. I think he's more of an easy course birdie getter as opposed to a difficult course bogey avoider, if that makes sense. But the putting is there, and if you're going to put a whole lot of emphasis into putting, take a look at Alex Noren. Same with Andrew Putnam. Now, I'm just generally high on Andrew Putnam. Top 5 in both par 3s, around the green, and 6th in par 4 total. 10th in putting. It's getting just cut off. 10th in Bermuda putting. Greens could be an issue, but again, being number 5 around the green will help that quite a bit. Avoids the bogeys when it's difficult. I really, really like Andrew Putnam this week at 8%. I'll be very happy if he's at that 8% mark. Same with Taylor Pendrith. Now, Taylor Pendrith is 13.5%, but I really like Taylor Pendrith. They're back-to-back analytically in terms of Fantasy National rankings. Taylor Pendrith, top 10 essentially in both par 3s and par 5s. He has played difficult courses very, very well. His issue is putting, and all it takes is a hot week with a putter. So I don't mind taking that gamble on Taylor Pendrith. It doesn't look like your fellow contestants are shy to take that gamble either. Riley, okay, nothing for or against, just kind of lukewarm. Adam Hadwin, again, okay. Around the green play, surprisingly, is pretty bad for him, but he has played difficult courses very, very well, so that's a good thing for Adam Hadwin, although he has not played this course. I kind of like Adam Hadwin, especially seeing the 5.4%. Munoz, no thanks. Mitchell, if you're playing Keith Mitchell, you're going on the difficult course narrative, but he has not played this event well. He hasn't. And then Taylor Moore, again, just kind of lukewarm. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But in the 8Ks, there's just a lot of the reason why I'm avoiding the 9Ks if I don't use Aaron Wise or maybe Taylor Montgomery. I mean, Neesmith I like a lot. I don't mind using Noren. I love Andrew Putnam. I really, really like Taylor Pendrith. Hadwin is fine. Davis Riley, for that matter. I mean, like I said, I'm just lukewarm. Nothing for, nothing against. Same with Taylor Moore. Like, there's a lot in the 8Ks I like. Upper 7s, Wyndham Clark. Really, really like Wyndham Clark this week. Yes, the par 3s are pretty bad, but everything else tends to be pretty darn good. Oh, shoot. 30. Gosh. Can't get my life together. Par 5s, fine. Around the green, fine. Very, very good at avoiding bogeys when it's difficult. Good at hitting greens when it's difficult. Number 1 in driving distance when it's difficult. That's going to be a factor. He is long off the tee. This course is long. You're going to have to be long. Plays the par 4s well. He's fine at putting at 10 to 15 feet. Who knows, man? He catches a hot streak. Like Wyndham Clark a lot. Patrick Rogers. Again, it's around the difficult course narrative. Harris English, no thank you. Will Gordon, coming off a very strong Mayakoba. No, not really, no thank you. Mackenzie Hughes is a bit of a stretch for me, but the around the green play, fantastic. The putting, 33rd, very strong. You are wanting this to be an all around the green and putting fest, a short game fest, because Mackenzie Hughes struggles mightily when it's difficult, and the iron play is atrocious, 122nd. So you're wanting this to be all short game and putting. So if you're going along those lines, you would want to take somebody like Denny McCarthy and Mackenzie Hughes and stack them. And if you want to go contrarian, that's fine. Like Mackenzie Hughes is still fairly popular at 12%. McCarthy, 10%. So it's not the most contrarian, but if you're believing in one, you should believe in the other, is how I will phrase this. Because they're both very similar. Bad irons, great in short game, great putting. So you put those two together if you're on either one of those. Lee Hodges, great. He's very popular. You can see 15%, but I mean, fantastic when it's been difficult. He's also tied with Russell Henley and Jason Day in terms of number 1 number 1 in approaches, strokes gained approach. Fantastic. Love Lee Hodges. Dean Burmester, he's been just finding his way into my lineup each and every way. And it's not that I'm in love with the player, but he's fine. If I haven't been using Alex Smalley, I've been using Dean Burmester. They each have their pros and cons. Dean Burmester much better at the par 3 and par 5 scoring, but Alex Smalley has been better when it's difficult. They both are in the top 15 in terms of distance when it's difficult. So you like that. They both struggle with their proximity, although Smalley has been a little bit better in terms of strokes gained approach. They both have generally struggled on the greens, except for Smalley in this one specific range. This is an outlier. He has struggled on the greens. So, like you see Dean Burmester. This is one of the reasons why I'm pretty high on Dean Burmester. 26th in putting on Bermuda, but the two ranges that we're focusing on are pretty bad. Something's got to give there. Either this number gets worse or these get better. So I like both of these players at 7,600 this week. I've been trying to use Smalley more because he's projected less owned, but I think Burmester is going to be good too. And then low sevens, try to hit a couple of these names here. Again, not a lot I like down here. Adam Long has played this event very, very well. If you want to go with that, top 20 in par 3 performance. He is very good, or generally has been very good when it's difficult in 2022. Around the green is, I won't say a disaster, but it is uncomfortable. The putting is great. Irons is great. So he's got enough for and against him. Brandon Wu again should be okay. I don't mind putting Brandon Wu in a lineup or two. Stefan Jaeger, I don't understand why he's at 9%. I mean, that right there alone should warrant a lot of attention. Number 5 in par 3 scoring. Number 2 at the length of the par 5s. 3rd in around the green. 20th in putting. Stefan Jaeger is the one player that I'll lose to if he plays poorly. I am all about some Stefan Jaeger this week. So that is my recommendation this week, is to fire up a lot of Stefan Jaeger, especially if he's at 9%. Now there's plenty to be gun shy about. Proximity, 102nd, but again, he's 19th in approach, so something's got to give there. Something's got to normalize. The par 4 performance hasn't been the best, but that's another reason why I'm high on him, because the par 4s are mitigated in importance here. He's been very good at these mid-length putts on Bermuda. I'm very confident in Stefan Jaeger. Mark Hubbard, fine. Top 10 in par 3s. Again, like Stefan Jaeger, 30th in putting, 11th in approach. A lot to like there. Also, take a look at Gary Woodland. Like, I know the ranking here is very, very low on him, but he plays difficult courses very, very well. He is very, very good in the wind. If Gary Woodland makes the cut, he's going to make some noise. The issue is you can see him missing the cut because the around the green play is bad. The par 3s and par 5 scoring is bad. If you're playing Gary Woodland, you are trying to get him into the weekend and really make a move that way, because he is very, very scarcely owned at 6%. I think Gary Woodland is a complete wild card. He is Jekyll and Hyde. So if you can get him through the weekend where it's going to be very difficult and very windy, you could have a strong performer there. I won't say contest winner, but it would be a strong performer for you. But that's a look at the 7Ks. And as much as I go into the 6s a whole lot and give you way too many recommendations in the 6Ks that don't work out, there's not much here this week. In terms of 6Ks, there really isn't. Now, the ratings really like Charlie Hoffman. He had a back injury throughout 2022, so some of the metrics could be hurting him, like Harris English. He is number 2 at the length of the par 5s, but I'm just kind of like a Ricky, kind of like Harris English, like, show me sustained success, and I'll start to believe again. But the putting has been woeful in 2022 on Bermuda. Greens haven't been great. I mean, really, he hadn't been great when it's been difficult at all. He is 15th in strokes gained approach. The par 4 performance is okay. There's enough here that you could take a gamble on Charlie Hoffman. I don't hate it. Ben Griffin right below him. Again, he played the Bermuda well. Yes, he collapsed on the back 9 on Sunday, but the numbers are there. He should be pretty good again around the green play. Very, very strong. He has not played a difficult round yet, or a round classified as difficult per Fantasy National, so it'll be interesting to see how it works for him there. But fourth in irons, par 4 performance is fourth. There's a lot to like with Ben Griffin. And then one other name that I'll throw out at you is Callum Tarrant down here at 6,500. He is decent enough in the wind. Par 3 performance is fine. It's more of his historical performance when it's tough. Top 40 in both of these, top 20 in bogey avoidance when it's tough. I like Callum Tarrant and his ability to scramble a par when he has to. He's also 10th or 9th in strokes gained approach and 8th in distance when it is difficult. So at 6,500, I think Callum Tarrant presents quite a bit of potential value. I mean, look at the putting. Gosh dang it, it's getting cut off. The putting metrics here, 12th and 19th at the 2 lengths of putting that we've looked at. Par 4 performance is good. So I think Callum Tarrant will be pretty strong for you this week as well. But honestly, there's not a lot in the 6Ks. I'm not going anywhere below Callum Tarrant. I think Callum Tarrant's fine. I'm not thrilled to use him, but if I'm trying to squeeze a Stars and Scrubs lineup, I don't mind coming down to Callum Tarrant. Somebody else, since I just saw his name, Scott Piercy, and this is a play on in the wind. He's number 7 in strokes gained total in the wind in 2022. Number 1 in strokes gained around the green. I don't love the player. I like the fact that he has been very good in the wind. He has played this course very, very well. His game seems to match up for Memorial Park. So take that what you will. But there's not a lot in the 6Ks that I like this week. All right. With that, let's move on over to Tiers Contest. Let's start making some classic lineups in preparation for the Houston Open this week. So, Tier 1, you have Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, and Tony Finau. I'm actually going to go with Sam Burns. He seems to be the unique choice of the 3, if there is such a thing. And this is a lot about the putting performance on Bermuda. I like Sam Burns this week. Tier 2, Hideki, Russell Henley, Aaron Wise, Taylor Montgomery, and Maverick McNeely. For me, it's between Henley and Wise. Everything wants me to take Aaron Wise. I'm actually going to take Russell Henley and try to be unique in Tier 1 and Tier 2, so that way I can afford to take some chalk that I think is going to be chalky later on in tiers. So give me Burns and Henley so far in Tiers 1 and 2. Tier 3, Jason Day, Sahith Theegala, Denny McCarthy, and Matthew Neesmith. Would have been Grillo as well. I'm going to take Matthew Neesmith. I'm very high on Matthew Neesmith this week. He's probably going to be the chalky option here. Part of the reason why I took Burns and Henley in the first 2 tiers. Give me Neesmith in Tier 3. Tier 4, Joel Damon, Siwoo, Alex Noren, Andrew Putnam, Taylor Pendrith, Davis Riley, and Sebastian Munoz. For me, it's between Putnam and Pendrith. Putnam is more of the home run hitter. I think he has the wider range of outcomes. I think Taylor Pendrith will play well this week. So I'm going to take Taylor Pendrith. He is the chalkier choice. So if you need to take some contrarian, need to take some uniqueness, or you're not afraid of the wider range of outcomes, take Andrew Putnam. But for me, it's between those 2. Tier 5, you have Adam Hadwin, Keith Mitchell, Taylor Moore, Wyndham Clark, Patrick Rogers, Harris English, and Mac Hughes. I really like Mac Hughes this week, but give me Wyndham Clark. I'm all about some Wyndham Clark this week. And then Tier 6, Justin Rose, S.H. Kim, David Lipsky, Francesco Molinari, Gary Woodland, Carl Yuan, and Matt Wallace. It's Gary Woodland, no ifs, ands, or buts. Just give me Gary Woodland. I think he's going to play very, very well this week, especially if he makes the cut. I think he's going to be a contender come Sunday if he makes the cut. So, all right, that's a look at tiers lineups. Let's start making some classic lineups here. and see how we can maneuver around your fellow contestants. Even though Scotty Scheffler is the most projected owned player, there's nobody in the 6Ks that's garnering a whole lot of love except for maybe Ben Griffin. Excuse me. So, if your fellow contestants are indeed going Scotty Scheffler, there's only one player that they could be going into the 6Ks down here to try to make this fit. That's definitely not right. Bad formulas. All right. So with Scheffler and Griffin, it looks like this would have to be... I don't know how much your fellow contestants are willing to go stars and scrubs, especially since, nobody, and I mean nobody in the low sevens other than Davis Thompson is getting a lot of love. So this would have to be some sort of balanced build, I would think. If they go Davis Thompson, I'm just going to say Dean Burmester because he's more widely owned. It could very well be Lee Hodges here as well. This gives them, perhaps a 9 and an 8, 2 mid-8s. In the, say 8K or hot upper 7s, they could go Patrick Rogers. They could be going, say, Mackenzie Hughes and maybe doing the double mid-7s because 91 is Griot. This would be Matthew Neesmith. That is a 14%er. They are completely ignoring the 9Ks like I have been doing if they do this. But, trying to fit Scotty Scheffler just seems very, very difficult at 11.5. Instead, what I think more of your fellow contestants are doing are going something to the effect of, say, maybe a Tony Finau, Taylor Montgomery type start. Maybe they don't have to go all the way down to Ben Griffin. They probably are. But I'm going to try to use some different names here. Stefan Jaeger at 9.2. Maybe they don't feel comfortable going into the 6Ks. So you got Stefan Jaeger at 71. Then other than Davis Thompson, you have a Sepp Straka right at 10%. Your fellow contestants could be coming up to Sepp Straka here. And then, this is again kind of your 77s. This is your Patrick Rogers, Mackenzie Hughes, Lee Hodges, Dean Burmesters of the world. If they tried to fit maybe a Taylor Pendrith, what's that give them? Hey, James, how you doing? The answer to that question is, I think the President's Cup. I think that was the last time he played. I don't think he's played a PGA Tour event in the fall. I don't think he has played a PGA Tour event in the fall. But hopefully your week has went well and that you are ready for the Houston Open. Thanks for jumping in chat like you always do when you are able to catch the show. Taylor Pendrith is probably a bit too expensive for them to fit. So, again, this is kind of like the Patrick Rogers, Mackenzie Hughes, Lee Hodges type area. There's 13%, or a little under 13%, right at 50K. There's another way your fellow contestants could be going. If they are going a balanced build, they could be trying to fit like a Russell Henley, Aaron Wise. But I'm going to go with, say, like an Aaron Wise, a Jason Day, and a Taylor Pendrith. Something to this effect. And they don't have to come all the way down into the low 7s, or at least not as much. Again, this is kind of like a Stefan Jaeger, Davis Thompson. I'm trying not to use the same names, but really, you got Ben Griffin here who's at 9.5%. Really, nobody else below him is above 6. Well, you got Scott Piercy at 6.5, but still not a lot. And in between Ben Griffin and Davis Thompson, Luke List at 8%, Jaeger at 9.2, and that's really about it. That's where your contestants are going. They're really kind of ignoring the low 7s and 6s. Really, this is the kind of lineup they're trying to build, but I don't see how monetarily they're going to be able to do it. Unless, yeah, I mean, Aaron Wise, Day, Pendrith getting some love. I guess the next would probably be Dean Burmester. What's this leave him? 72.50. So I mean, this is exactly the two players we've been hovering around in this area. I mean, there's a 14.5%er. That looks to be about the chalkiest construction that I could simulate for your fellow contestants. Looks to be going this kind of balanced build. Not trying to drop into the 6Ks, although Ben Griffin has been getting some love in the 6Ks. So, if this is the way your fellow contestants are going, I told you that I haven't been up into the 9Ks much. If I am, it's Aaron Wise or Taylor Montgomery, and they're getting used anyway. So I'm really trying to throw curveballs at people. I've been going Finau and Henley, trying to jam a double 10, and then mixing and matching in the 8s to go with them. You really, if you're going Tony Finau, you probably can't do much of Taylor Pendrith, even though I love Taylor Pendrith because he's so popular. That's going to set you up for quite a few duplicate lineups. Instead, I've been going Tony Finau, Russell Henley, Andrew Putnam. Or if you want to go Taylor Pendrith, and there's no reason not to, he's very, very strong. If you are going Taylor Pendrith here, you might have to drop down to either a Hideki or have to start your team with a Russell Henley and go, say, Russell Henley, Mav McNeely, or Sahith Tagala, Taylor Pendrith. I've been much preferring the 210K play because I think there's enough in the lower 7s that we can find some value. And I mentioned, in the mid 6s, Scott Piercy is fine. He's getting a little bit of love at 6.5% at 67. I like Callum Tarrant quite a bit at 6,500. So this is who I've been coming down to when I've talked about Callum Tarrant. When I've been trying to squeeze these stars and scrubs, it's to fit a double 10 in these lineups, and I can do that if I'm comfortable coming down to Callum Tarrant. I don't want to do it often, but I can come down to Callum Tarrant and feel okay about it. And again, this is that magic 7,300 area. Depending on where you want to go, Stefan Jaeger's the most chalky in this area, but he's the player that I'm most comfortable with. I've mentioned if you're willing to take the chance on Gary Woodland, I don't mind him this weekend, or if he makes it to the weekend. At 75, not really a whole lot that I would be interested in. I'm trying to get to 76. Kind of stinks. So if I can't get to 76, then there's no reason to go to Woodland. I would go probably Stefan Jaeger. I hate to keep using these same names, but I mean, it's just the player I like the best in this area, and he is getting the most love. Now at 7,400, Sepp Straka is kind of interesting. Adam Long, if you want to value the previous course success, he's played this event very, very well the 2 years it's been here. There's a sub 10%er with Tony Finau and Russell Henley. Don't mind that at all. Stefan Jaeger, number 6 in my rankings. I'm very high on Stefan Jaeger. There's a lineup that has been fairly common for me that I've been building. I've also been, going Sam Burns, and it's a lot tougher to fit a double 10K with Sam Burns. If I do, I've been just going pure stars, pure scrubs, like 3-3. I've been going Burns, Finau. I've been going Callum Tarrant or Scott Piercy. Take your mid to upper 6, and I've been doubling it up with Ben Griffin. I've been doing that. And then if you want to try to balance out the last two, you can. Dean Burmester kind of fits here. But if I'm doing this kind of lineup, I'm just going haywire with it. I've been going, Burns, Finau. Wise is too expensive, but maybe a McNeely, maybe a Montgomery, Matthew Neesmith even. Even Neesmith causes me to go to a third 6,000, which don't love. So you come down off of Neesmith, maybe Wyndham Clark, somebody I'm really high on. Haven't talked about him all that much in lineup making. There's Wyndham Clark at 79, and then at 77, take your pick of these players that I think are pretty strong. Mackenzie Hughes, Lee Hodges, Dean Burmester. I mentioned Monday. I am really, really liking Alex Smalley. I mean, there's an 11%er. It's a little bit more chalky than I would like, but that's the double 10. You would like to try to get a little bit more from your middle, but I mean, Burns, Finau, Alex Smalley, I'm pretty confident is going to play pretty darn well because greens are going to be important. He's a green and regulation machine. I've got a pretty good feeling on Wyndham Clark, and then Ben Griffin's played excellent lately, and Callum Tarrant has played well in the wind, and at 6,500, you could do worse. I say that, now he's going to finish last, but you could do worse. So there's a look at some of the lineups and constructions that I've been building this week for the Houston Open. A reminder, again, I will be live Friday evening for the second Friday Night Chill stream. Will not have my Showdown content on Friday. Again, apologies, James, for that. I am going to go chase the little white golf ball again. Played yesterday morning. I'm going to play again Friday morning. But I will be online Friday evening. If you are wanting some Showdown advice, feel free to reach out to me. Comments of this video, social media message. I will answer. I will get to your questions. Absolutely. I just won't have a stream Friday morning. But I'm sure I'll be online tomorrow. Not sure how much I'm going to be able to do with Showdown Thursday PM. I can take a look at it if people want to. But essentially it's going to be the same thing as what we just did tonight since no rounds have been played. But I will be online tomorrow. I'll be more laid back. I will be giving you a look at the lineups that I submit, getting my Friday Night Chill stream ready, just kind of hanging out. We can talk about the Houston Open. It should be on ESPN Plus, so we can talk about that as it's going as well. So, James, thanks for jumping in chat like you always do. Good luck with all of your contests this week. And thanks to everyone who tunes in and watches and listens. Always appreciate the support. Love what I do. And I'm just thankful that you all tune in show after show, week after week, and support the channel. So for all of the wagers you have made this week for the Houston Open, for all of the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Houston Open, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.